welcome back, and welcome now to the 1940s. Now the 1940s, half of that period for Europe was spent in war. The war started in 1939 and followed through until 45 and literally affected all the world in the end. The styles by this time, of course, were coming from Hollywood and stars from around the world, because movies were being made everywhere, as much as they were from fashion houses, etc. So magazines, movie magazines, fashion magazines were spurring away on what was happening. Whenever there's a war, there's always an austerity or a difference in the way that people dress and the mood, and so hair followed that for many practical reasons. Long hair was worn up a lot, but not all hair was long during this period. There seems to be a fallacy that that all the hair was long and rolled, which we will be doing, but it wasn't the only look. So with this first look, we have our lovely mannequin with us again, and this is long hair. We'll use her for several looks because, again, as history went on and communication got better and better around the world, many more people were able to see many more variations of looks from different countries, and so they could adapt them, and more hairdressers became more popular, and they added their slant to each look that was going on. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to set this, and I'm just going to show you the start of it so I don't bore you to tears with the whole thing, to give you an idea, and then what we're going to do is we're going to roll the hair in the way that it was done at that time. The first look we're going to do is called a victory roll. The name came from the planes that would go over in England once they got back from their sorties, once they had finished travelling over to the enemy territory to do bombing raids, etc. And when they came home, they would do a roll in the sky with their plane to let people know that they were home. And so the rolls that were being worn at that time were already around, but like a lot of things, it was a good excuse to sort of nickname this particular hairstyle. And I actually learnt it from a hairdresser in England when I was doing my apprentice, who had been a hairdresser during the war years, and she actually worked at the college that I was learning hairdressing at when I was doing my day release for my city and guilds. And most people wanted to barrel ahead with shampoos and blow dryers and everything trendy, and perms and things that were going on at the time, stacks and things. And I was totally interested, and she thought I was just having her on. I didn't really want to know. But I've always had a fascination for all periods of the career that we're in. And so anyway, she taught me a lot and explained why things were done. So this is just one look that can be done. So what we're doing, and I'll show you the beginning, as I say, and then we'll come back to it, is we're starting this idea of a roll off. If hair was extremely long like this, as I said in different periods of history, get rid of the hair you don't want. That'll come when we start setting it up. But for now, we just want to put the hair in place. So what I've done is I've taken a very far side parting, and for me, I like that look. It just gives it a little bit more strength to the look, brings it over the side, a little bit more sexy to me when it's a far parting. Then the main part of this is all the hair moves in the same direction. So from there, I've taken a parting a couple of inches back, and then I've drawn a semicircle around the head, as you can see, moving his hair out the way. And then all I've done is I've pulled everything over, so everything's going in the same direction. I've pulled it all the way over, and I've just used some clips to hold it in the same position on the opposite side. So now we have two half moons, egg shape, whatever you want to call it, that are coming down and splits the hair. Obviously there's a lot more hair on this side, and we'll explain that as we go along. Now by this time, as you know from other videos, bobby pins have been around since the 19th century and were really a great friend to women doing their hair and setting it up in the evening for either curls cascading down, or, as we're going to do now, rolling it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just using for today I'm using some body spray just to give it a little bit of volume. The hair's clean, but again, you know, people didn't wash their hair every day like crazy back then. You know, it was shampooed, it was left several days so the natural oils could get through, and then they would do it again. So I'll do a couple of sets on this side just to show you, and then we'll continue it all the way around. I'm going to take a nice size section, but not too crazy. So if you're doing it on yourself, you'd wrap it around your finger. So we're just going to wrap this around our finger, and then you're just going to draw this hair up into a little barrel curl, and then with a bobby pin you're just going to pop that into place, and you can double pin if you want, or a single pin will do. People would do this and then put a scarf around their head and then go to bed for the evening. Not as uncomfortable as the 60s when people would go to bed in rollers. Luckily by then they eventually brought out sponge rollers, but that's a story for another day, because originally the iron ones would go in with the bristles, and God help it for your partner that was sleeping next to you, but as I say, that's a different story. So putting another roll in and pinning through, you know, and if you want to use 1 or 2 pins to hold this, you can. And obviously as you get into more hair like here, you're just going to want to split that section. I'm using a tail comb because I'm doing it on somebody, so I mean obviously it's always easy when you're above hair working on it. When you're doing it for yourself, you just grab the hair and roll it in the position it was necessary for the look that you're trying to do. Here we're rolling the hair up, so I'm just taking it in an upward motion. If you were doing a set from wet, then obviously it would have to go under a dryer, which this will as well, but I mean it would have to go under for a lot longer, and that would normally be for setting it and wearing it down, and that would last quite a nice long time, because those curls really did hold and stay in. You know, most of the brushes back then were bristle brushes. You often see on movies people brushing quite vigorously through their hair, but with the Pinkos sets, they held really well. Okay, so this one just sits underneath the one that we just did, and so on and so on. And so what I'll do is I'll continue to move around the head, setting this up, and then I'll come back, show you it finished, explain it, and then we'll move on to the next part of the look. Okay, you join me again, and I've been just gradually working through the back, and just I'm coming through to the side where we've done the far side part. Last couple of sections, again, a good size section, but we're just going to pull those ends, wrap them around, make sure you tuck the ends in, and we're just going to bring that up in a barrel curl. A pin curl basically sat flat, a barrel curl sits up or outwards, and what it does, it just adds more body to the actual shape. But really, I mean, because with this hair's going up, if you sat it down, it won't make a difference. It's fine. If it was flatter, what you're doing is you're just putting a bit of body into the hair. So last section here, and again, very much your home set. If you were at the salon getting this done at the time, then it would be a wet set. You'd go under the dryer. This, of course, because we have damped it down with some thickening lotion, will need to be dried off, and so we're going to allow that to happen. But really, what you can see is, as we've worked around softly, just scooping this hair up, popping it into these big barrels, it's basically taking on the shape that we're going to be putting it in afterwards, and that's the whole idea. You know, if someone was doing this in a salon situation or a movie set, they would be doing this, and it would be every little hair in place. If you're doing it at home, you're getting ready. You want to look glamorous, but you're getting ready with the things you've got in front of you. So wrapping the hair, pinning either overnight or for a little while, and just to get that body into the hair. And a lot of people would actually work from their natural hair, whether it was naturally curly or wavy or even smooth, if they had the knack just to get that back combing in and that hair into place. So this is going to set for a while, then we'll come back and we'll move into the placement of this victory roll. So our mannequin has had some time to set and just dry a little out, and we will now just take those bobby pins out from those barrel curls that we set, and you can see with a little bit of body lotion, a little bit of curl, you're getting a nice amount of springy movement in this, and it would have been a very reliable way to set hair at the time. So I'll just take all of these bobby pins out, coming through into the opposite side. Last couple of bobby pins out, and last couple of curls in place. Okay, so now the clips that are on this side I will remove, but they're actually tracing the movement or the placement where we're going to put actually bobby pins again just to hold the hair in place. But for now I'm just going to remove those so that I can give the hair a nice little brush through. Take that through right to the ends. And I'm brushing it from where I combed it and took it into place so that it's still staying over that side. Same through the back, and then over into this side, same again. Brush that through, bring it right through to the end so that we haven't got any knots. And then we have a really nice wave in there actually, almost like a Veronica Lake wave, but that's a story for another day and another video that we'll do, because that has quite an interesting tale to it. If you don't know who Veronica Lake is, you can look her up, and as I say, we'll move into that downward wave that she had and how controversial that got at the time. So now that we've brushed it through, we're going to put a little back combing in. So we've still got this shape moving over, and the first thing I'm going to do is through here where it's lovely and smooth, we're going to keep that, and so I'm going to smooth that so that I don't knock it over. I'm going to lift the hair up from where, if you look, you can see along the ridge where the pins were in, so I know where my shape was. So I'm just going to lift up that top layer, and I'm just back combing on the top of the hair. The reason I'm doing the top on this area is so I can see where it is and so that I can follow it through. Okay, again, top. Now this is where it slopes down, so I can see that's moving down. Take that again. I've got the head on slightly loose so I can move it for you, around for you, so that's why she's a little drunk. Okay, and that's the last bit there. It doesn't take in the bottom. Remember, the bottom will fall away and create the shape around the very bottom. And now I'm going to come through and I'm just back combing a little bit more, so I'm just push that out the way. If you prefer to do the underneath first, that's entirely up to you. I'm not with your mannequin or your client or your model or yourself, so whatever works for you best. And you can see all the backcombing is going on this inside area because I want the underneath to be as smooth as possible. Already done this piece, so I'll just come through underneath. So you're just backcombing, radding, whatever you want to call it, just to put a little bit of body. I'm not worried so much. I've got that volume lotion in the hair, and also I've got a lot of hair on this side, so I'm not too worried about overdoing it. I just want to get some backcombing in it. The area you will want a little more backcombing is on this side, and the reason being that we haven't got as much hair, and so we need to create the volume. And so from the inside again, I'm going to work, and I'm now working outside and inside, and again according to the amount of hair you have will be dependent on how you want to do this. Here I'm working inside, behind here I'm just continuing because I've got my scored line. And if you feel some of this hair is confusing you or getting in your way, just take it, now that you've got your backcombing in, just take one of your clips and just clip it out of the way so that it's not in your line of sight while you're just backcombing this side up. Again, on the inside. And while I'm doing this as well on the other side, you'll see I'm compacting a little bit. Here, I'm fluffing this out because what I'm wanting to do is create more volume onto this side. And so again, how you backcomb will make a big difference. So I'm lifting and I'm fluffing that out as I go. Might look messy, but it will do just the trick when we start getting this hair into place. So that side's fluffed up, this side's more restricted, and they will match up, he says. So now, remember, we've just clicked this over so we know exactly where it needs to sit, and this is the underneath area. So now I'm going to pull this hair and with our bobby pins, as you've seen me do before on previous videos, I'm going to cross pin. So one pin goes in, and then, just so you can see a little better, I grab my next pin and I cross pin by going over the top of the pin that's already there. That will lock them together. I continue up with my next pin, and I'm just recreating the exact shape that we did when we put our clips in earlier. I'll need another pin next to that. And then, as you can see, the pin's going in. As I come to the front, remember we took this parting a couple of inches back and drew that hair back. So I'm just going to cross pin on this side and cross pinning the opposite way. So we've locked it down all the way down. Now what I'm going to do is lock it down on the top so that this hair doesn't fall back on itself. And if these two pins, which you can see which are locked together, you feel are not holding, then you can pin across the pins that you've done, and what that will do is completely lock them in place. So what you do with that is you just open your pin, and where these two go over each other, you come straight across the two of them, and then that holds everything together. Now that that's pinned, I'm just going to come back and with a little spray, spray that top, and then just make sure that everything is combed over. Any little flyaways will move into the backcombed and pinned area, so you will find that you'll be rolling over those and they're not going to show. Now back to this side now, and now we start to form our shape. So let's take our first section, which is around the front, and I just lose my comb for a minute, and now I pick up my brush, and here you're going to brush through, smooth any of that backcombing that may be seen on the underneath, because you want a really nice smooth finish. So that's the good reason again to use your bristle brush, so you can really smooth out but you don't lose everything of the backcombing you put in. Make sure you get those edges, because again that's going to be seen when it's finished. And then we're going to roll. Now on this side, because it's needs to match the volume that you have on the opposite side, you're going to roll slightly differently. You're going to take the ends, you're going to put them in, roll them in, roll around your finger, and then you're going to lift the hair. So instead of going tight, you're going to lift the hair into place and then see how your shape is sitting. You're rolling that to the top of that pin shape, because obviously everything is secure over here now, so this side will be secure to pin into. So we're dropping that down slightly because it is the shape to the side, and in the center I'm going to place a pin. Once that holds it in place, then I can come back to the front, open a pin, go in and pop another pin in. And by doing that, it doesn't show a pin at the very edge of your shape, which is what you want. If you need a third pin towards the back, you can do that. Again, coming in from the top where it's not going to be seen, and then place that pin in. We're going to turn round. We're going to come into the side now, and then brushing on the underneath, smoothing, just a little on the inside but mainly on the outside. You're going to grab the hair again, the comb if you don't lose it down your trousers, and you're going to push that hair in that you don't need, roll it around your finger. And do, you know, if this doesn't work the first time or it falls out, don't worry, just do it again. It's long hair, remember, as we said before, so you can always rework it. We're going to bring it up, place it to match in the front, and it's going to now pin into the back again. So we'll come back, we'll grab another bobby pin, open it up. Now where these two openings are between the two rolls, we're going to go through there, but again we're going to go to the center and we're going to pin that so it's nice and firm. So now, before we finish that, you can see you're beginning to form your shape. But what we can do now, because we've left the two sides here loose, we can now comb over the top of that, which is how you get that lovely smoothness to the roll. And once that's combed over, and again, remember I always say my tail comb is like a little finger, so I'm just holding that in place, and my fingers can just hold that. And now, of course, I put my bobby pins as far away from myself as possible, just to make things awkward. I can now take this pin and place it across the top of those two areas. So that now pulls those two rolls together. I'll move into the back, and we're moving into the back and at an angle. A little bit more back combing in there. I don't need any back combing in the ends, obviously, because the hair on this particular model is way longer than we need for the rolls. And on other shapes that I'll do, you'll see I'll use a much shorter mannequin, and you'll still get these lovely shapes. But it's nice to be able to see it in different formats. So I'm going to push this into the middle. It just becomes stuffing, it just helps to fill out the hair. And the more you do this, the more you'll get used to it. And so we'll just bring that together. And again, combing those together now, because everything's getting firmer as you do the sides. And you know, like anything else, it's not a race. So if you've not done it before, don't worry, it'll just take you a little bit of time to get used to it. But all we're doing is pinning through. Let me move this around, and you can see pinning through into the top and into the area that's sectioned off, and that will just hold everything in place. Take your time, work through, check your pins, see how everything's looking. Again, if someone was doing this at home, they'd be working on themselves, pinning this in place. It's not a case of absolutely everything being in place, because we're now in a period where people are doing their own hair. Of course, a lot of the stars were coming from Hollywood and other like movies being done around the world, and propaganda movies and all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, if you weren't able to go to the hairdressers all the time, you were finding ways to do this yourself. In fact, with the WAF, the Women's Auxiliary Service, I saw an interview with a woman who said that they used their spare laces, because they used to wear quite sensible little lace-up shoes, and they would use those laces to put at the bottom of the hair, tie it, and then twist the lace, and it would bring the hair up into a roll. So there's lots of ingenious ways to work through and make this happen. And just enjoy and take your time when you're creating these shapes. So let's turn this around, and with the side with the finer amount of hair done, let's move into the side with the bulk of hair where we've pulled it right the way over. So I'm just going to separate this so that we can just put a little bit of back combing into the underneath. So let's just lift that. I can slide that on top without disturbing that. And we're working on the inside again, so that we don't have too much back combing on the smoothness on the underneath, which we want to keep for the actual roll itself. So again, just broadly back combing out with this, just where you can see that you need it, just to give it that bit of grip as you work through the hair, rolling it round. Just going to use a little bit of spray again. And then we can start to do our roll at the front. So where we've got the roll to the side here, we're now going to grab the first area, again around from the front to around the ear area. Smooth out on the underneath and on that edge. Remember, the edge will be what's seen from the front. As I pull that, that smooths all that internal area out as well. And then, as opposed to the other side where we wrapped very closely and then pulled it up to fill it out, this side's obviously going to be very full already. So we can just tuck away the hair we don't need, as we said before, and then I can roll it quite close, because as it lifts up, it actually fills out. And so you can do that. And again, if you need to do it once or twice, that's fine. You just bring that up, place it along where your pins are, so that you know you have that security. And then we will grab a pin, which I've left too far away once more, and go through and into the inside, and then just place a pin. I'll grab another pin, just holding that with my tail comb. I'll bring that roll up, tuck it in, and then I can come into the inside of that area and pop another pin in, which should secure it enough that then I can just comb over and see how that's sitting. And once it's up, you can bang it around and you can play around with it because it's going to hold its shape. I'm going to use another pin into the front area, and I'll hide this inside the roll so that you're not seeing it from the front. We'll move into the second section, and again I'll just smooth out. Make sure you grab all the hair you need. Little smoothing on the inside as well, but mainly on the outside area because that's what's going to roll over. Get rid of the hair we don't need, and then we'll bring this up and just arrange your pins that are on the top so that they fit in with the shape that you're doing. Can you see the way I'm bending that through? So even though we've rolled it, I can still roll more just to get rid of the hair that I don't need. Another pin into the top area. And now, like we did on the other side, I can bring these two areas together. So you comb over the top, you're combing over this area where they come together, comb over, tuck in, and then you can hold it with your tail comb while you grab a pin and pin this together. You'll continue that through into this back area. Just grab all the hair that's left. We'll roll this in, bring it up, pin this in, and then we'll have our finished look. And we'll come back and review the whole shape. Okay, so here's our finished shape, our victory roll. I've added some flowers, which were popular, flowers, rhinestones, many things were put in the hair during the time. You could wear it plain during the day and dress it up in the evening if you wanted. And we've got the finer side, which we did, and we've rolled over with some back combing. And again, if you wanted to use a pad in here instead, that's absolutely possible and would have been done at the time. All the hair was drawn over. This has got the main amount of hair on this side, and again, back combed, roll it over to match the pins along the side, and then it draws down into a V so it slips over to the opposite side, and it's just 3 sections here, 3 sections on the other side, and you get a really nice roll. During this time there was rolls in the front with the back left down in a snood, and I've got some of those, and in future videos we'll go through how they were used and why they were used during the war and why they became a fashion statement, and lots of other styles from this period. So this is just the start to the 1940s to go along with our other looks, and I hope you like it.